When I bought this farm, the previous owner only told me one thing. Don't use the field behind the house. He said it casually. No warning, no emphasis, no explanation. Just a sentence, like reminding me to turn off the lights before leaving. I asked him why. He looked toward the back of the property for a moment, then said, "You don't need it." That was it. Nothing else. At the time, I figured maybe the soil was bad, maybe it had drainage issues, or maybe he just didn't want to deal with it. That happens. Not every piece of land is worth using. But when I checked it myself, there was nothing wrong. The soil was good. No flooding, no rocks. If anything, it looked better than some of the other fields. It sat behind a small slope, hidden from the house. You had to walk around to see it. A wide piece of land, flat, quiet. I left it alone for about a week, didn't touch it. There was too much else to fix. But eventually, I started thinking, there was no reason to waste a field like that. I didn't plan to use all of it, just a small section, just to test it. The first day I went out there, everything felt normal. I started early. The air was cool. The soil was soft, easy work. I remember working for about 2 hours. Nothing heavy, just clearing and prepping. When I stopped, I checked the time. It was almost 11. I stood there for a few seconds, because I had gone out around 7, not 9. I was sure of that. I remembered breakfast. I remembered checking the pump before heading out. That always takes at least an hour. Which meant I had been out there for almost 4 hours. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like 2. I told myself I probably just lost track of time, worked slower than usual. It wasn't a big deal. The next day, I went back. This time, I paid closer attention. I started at 8, worked steadily. Nothing unusual, nothing strange. Until I stopped. Checked the time. 1 in the afternoon. I didn't move, still holding the tool, because in my head, it had only been 2 or 3 hours. But in reality, it had been over 5. That's when I stopped ignoring it. I looked around. The field was the same. No changes. No sounds. No signs of anything wrong. Everything was completely normal. And that was the problem. There was nothing there to explain where those hours went. No gap in memory. I remembered working the whole time. No breaks, no leaving. But the time didn't match. That night, I sat in the kitchen, wrote everything down. Start time, end time, what I did. Everything was clear. Except for one thing. A section I couldn't define. Not missing, not forgotten, just undefined. Like it had happened without leaving a clear edge. The third day, I brought my phone, set it up at the edge of the field, recording. I wanted proof. If something was wrong, it had to show up there. I started working, same as before. No strange feeling, no warning, nothing. Until I went back to get the phone. Check the time. Almost 2. I opened the video, watched from the beginning. Everything was normal. I walked into frame, started working, moved around, and then it skipped. Not a glitch, not a cut. It just jumped forward. I was standing somewhere else. The light had changed, time had passed, but there was nothing in between. No work, no movement, no record, just missing time. I rewound it, watched again. Same thing. No corruption, no error, just one clear fact. There was a period of time where I was in that field, and it didn't exist. And for the first time, I understood something. The previous owner didn't tell me to avoid that field because the land was bad. He told me because something out there doesn't keep time. I didn't go back the next day. Not right away. I stayed inside. Tried to convince myself it wasn't what I thought it was, that there was an explanation, something simple, something I just hadn't figured out yet. I checked the video again, watched the missing section over and over, looking for anything. A shadow, a glitch, a frame out of place. But there was nothing. It didn't look broken. It didn't look edited. It just skipped. Like that part of the day never existed. By late afternoon, I told myself I needed to test it again. Not guess, not assume. Test it. I grabbed my watch, a mechanical one, not connected to anything. Set a timer on my phone, too, and wrote down the exact time before I stepped out. 4:12 p.m. Clear. Recorded. Then I walked back to the field. Everything looked the same. Same slope, same open ground, nothing out of place. I stepped in, waited, listened. Nothing. No sound, no shift, no feeling. Just normal. Too normal. I started working again, slow this time, paying attention to everything, each movement, each step, checking the watch every few minutes. 4:18, 4:26, 4:33. Everything lined up. Everything made sense. For a while. Until it didn't. I looked down at my hands, covered in dirt, more than they should be. I checked the watch again. 6:07. I froze, stared at it, waited for it to change, to correct itself. But it didn't. The phone. Same time. I turned slowly, looked at the field. The section I had been working on was already finished. Clean. Even. Like I had been there for hours. More than hours. But I didn't remember doing it. I stepped back immediately, out of the field, like crossing a line. And something shifted. Not visibly, just internally. Like everything snapped back into place. I looked down again. My hands were shaking, my arms sore, like I had been working hard, for a long time. But my head didn't match. No memory, no sequence, nothing to connect it. Just the result. I went straight back to the house. Didn't stop. Didn't look back. Closed the door behind me. Locked it. Like that would do anything. That night, I tried to write everything down again. Every detail. Every second I could remember. But there were gaps now. Not just one. More. Small at first. Minutes. Then longer. Pieces of time that didn't connect properly. Like pages missing from a book. I checked the video from that afternoon. Same thing. I walked into frame, started working, then jump. Different light. Different position. Hours gone. No transition. No explanation. Just absence. But this time, there was something else. At the very edge of the frame, near where I had been standing. A shift. Subtle. Hard to notice, but it was there. The ground looked disturbed. Not from my work. Something else. Like something had moved across it, without leaving a clear shape. I paused the video. Zoomed in, frame by frame, trying to see it clearly, trying to understand what I was looking at. But the more I watched, the worse it felt. Because it wasn't just the time that was missing anymore. It wasn't just me losing hours. Something was happening in that space, while it wasn't being recorded. And whatever it was still there. I didn't go back into the field after that. Not the next day. Not even close. I stayed near the house. Kept my distance. Like that would fix it. Like whatever was happening was tied to that exact spot. I kept working the rest of the farm. Fences, water lines, equipment. Normal things. Things I could track. Things that made sense. And for a while, everything was fine. No missing time, no gaps, no strange footage. Just normal days, normal work, normal exhaustion. It almost felt like it was over. Like it had stopped. Like I had done the right thing by staying away. Until the fourth day. I was fixing a section of fence near the side of the house, not even close to the back field. I remember checking the time. 10:32 a.m. Clear. I hammered in one post, adjusted the wire, looked down for the next tool, and when I looked back up, the light had changed. Softer. Lower. I felt it before I even checked. That same wrong feeling. That same disconnect. I looked at my watch. 1:19 p.m. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Because I hadn't left that spot. Not even a step. But hours had passed. Again. I turned slowly. Looked toward the back of the property. Toward the field. It was still there. Still quiet. Still untouched. But something felt different. Like the boundary I thought existed wasn't real. I dropped the tool. Walked straight back inside. Didn't finish the work. Didn't look back. Just inside. Closed the door. And stood there. Trying to understand how it had followed me. That night, I set up cameras inside the house. Kitchen, hallway, front door, everywhere I could. If it wasn't just the field anymore, I needed to know. I needed to see it happen, or at least see what was left behind. I stayed up late, watched the monitors, watched the clocks, tracked every minute. Nothing happened. Everything normal. Until I blinked. Just once. A normal blink. And when I opened my eyes, the room felt different. Not changed, just shifted. I looked at the clock. 2:41 a.m. The last time I checked, it had been 11:03. I stood up immediately, heart racing, ran to the cameras, replayed the footage, fast, desperate, trying to catch it, trying to find the moment. But just like before, there was nothing. No movement, no transition, just a jump from one moment to another. Hours gone, without anything in between. But this time, there was something else. In the kitchen camera, right before the skip, I saw myself, sitting at the table, still, looking straight ahead, not moving, not blinking, just sitting there for too long, longer than any normal person would. I paused the footage, zoomed in, frame by frame. My face was visible, clear, but something about it was wrong. Not the expression, not the position, the stillness. It didn't look like someone resting. It looked like something waiting. Then the video skipped, and I was in a different position, different time. Like before, like always. I leaned back from the screen, trying to think, trying to stay grounded, but one thought kept pushing through. This wasn't just happening in the field anymore. It wasn't tied to that place. It had started there, but now it was happening to me. Anywhere, anytime. And for the first time, I started to wonder something worse. Not where the time was going, not what was happening during those missing hours, but who was still there? While I wasn't, I needed proof. Not guesses, not theories. Something solid. Something I could hold on to. So, the next morning, I set a plan. Simple. Controlled. I tied a rope around my wrist, tight enough that I'd feel it if it moved. Then I tied the other end to the leg of the kitchen table, a solid piece of wood. Heavy. Not something I could move without knowing. If I lost time again, I would still be there, still connected, still aware of where I was. Or at least, I'd know if something changed. I set up the cameras again, checked every angle, checked the clock. 10:08 a.m. I sat down, hands on the table, rope tight around my wrist. And I waited. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. Everything normal. I watched the clock. 10:12. 10:19. 10:27. Still there. Still aware. Still in control. And then I blinked. Just once. When I opened my eyes, the room was darker. The light outside had shifted. I felt it immediately, that same wrong feeling, that same break. I looked at the clock. 1:46 p.m., hours gone, again. But this time, something was different. The rope. It was still tied, still around my wrist, but it wasn't tight anymore. It was loose, slack, like it had been untied and tied again. My hands were dirty, not just dirt, dark soil, wet, packed under my nails, on my sleeves, even on the table. I hadn't been in the field. I hadn't left the house. At least, I didn't remember leaving. I didn't wait. I went straight to the cameras, pulled up the footage, found the moment, right before the skip. I was sitting there, exactly where I should be, rope tight, looking at the clock. Then, the video jumped, but not completely. This time, there was something in between. Not a full recording, not continuous, just fragments, single frames, out of sequence, like something was interfering with it. I slowed it down, frame by frame, and I saw it. In one frame, the chair was empty, the rope hanging loose. In the next, the front door was open, just slightly. In another, mud on the floor, fresh, leading inside. Then, another frame, the table, the rope, tight again. Like nothing had changed. I kept going through every fragment, trying to piece it together, trying to understand what I had done, or what had been done with me. And then I saw the last frame, the one right before the recording stabilized again. It was the kitchen floor, near the doorway. Something scratched into the dirt. Not random, not messy, deliberate. Letters. I leaned closer to the screen, heart pounding, trying to read it, trying to make sense of it, because I already knew. Whatever was happening during those missing hours, it wasn't random. It had purpose, and that was worse. The word wasn't complete. Part of it had been smudged, but enough was still visible, enough to understand. Back. I sat there, not moving, not breathing, because I hadn't written that. I hadn't even gone outside. At least, I didn't remember doing it. I looked down at my hands again, at the dirt, at the rope, at the table. Everything said the same thing. I had left. I had gone somewhere. And I had come back. Just like before. But this time, there was a message. And for the first time, I understood something I hadn't before. Whatever was taking that time from me wasn't just happening to me. It was using me to do something, somewhere. And now, it wanted me to go back. I didn't go back. Not after seeing that word. Not after understanding what it meant. Back. It wasn't a note. It wasn't a warning. It was a direction. And I wasn't going to follow it. I stayed inside that entire day. Didn't step outside. Didn't go near the back of the property. I locked the doors, closed the blinds, turned off everything that didn't need to be on. If this thing needed me to go there, then I just wouldn't. Simple. That was the plan. For a while, it worked. No missing time, no gaps, no strange footage. Just a normal day. A quiet one. The kind I hadn't had in a while. And for a moment, I thought maybe that was enough. Maybe staying away was all it took. That night, I didn't set up the cameras. I didn't tie myself down. I didn't write anything. I just sat in the living room, lights on, waiting, listening. Hours passed. Nothing happened. No shift, no lost time, no sign of anything. Until I blinked. Just once. And everything changed. The room was darker. The lights were off. The air felt colder. Wrong. I looked at the clock. 3:12 a.m. I hadn't meant to sleep. I didn't remember sleeping. But hours were gone. Again. I stood up slowly, heart pounding, trying to stay calm, trying to stay in control. I turned toward the front door. Still locked, chains in place, nothing disturbed. Then I looked down, at the floor. Mud, fresh, dark, leading from the door into the house. I followed it, step by step, through the hallway, into the kitchen. Each footprint clear, defined, not smeared, not accidental, placed, deliberate. They led to the back door, the one that faced the field. I stopped there, didn't open it, didn't touch it, just stood there, because I already knew. That door was locked too. I checked it anyway. Still bolted, still sealed. Nothing broken, nothing forced, which meant whatever had walked through this house hadn't used the doors. I stepped back, slowly, trying to think, trying to make sense of it, but there was only one conclusion left. I hadn't stopped it. I hadn't avoided it. I hadn't stayed away. Because it didn't matter where I was. It wasn't about the field anymore. It wasn't about the house. It was about me. I went back to the kitchen table, sat down, hands shaking, trying to ground myself, trying to hold on to something real, Then I noticed it. On the table. The dirt. Same as before. But this time, there was something written in it again. Not the same word. Not back. Something else. Clearer. Longer. I leaned closer. Read it slowly. Because I didn't want to get it wrong. Because I needed to be sure. The letters were uneven, rough, but still readable. Stay. I stared at it, trying to understand, trying to decide if that meant what I thought it meant. Stay here? Stay inside? Stay away? Or stay where I already was? I turned my head slowly. Toward the back of the house. Toward the field. Even though I couldn't see it from inside. Even though there was a wall between us. I could feel it. Still there. Still quiet. Still waiting. And then I understood. Not all at once, but enough. Enough to know I had been wrong. I thought I had been going back to that field. I thought I was leaving the house, losing time, and returning. But that wasn't it. Not really. Because if that were true, there would be a moment where I wasn't there. A moment where I had actually left. And there wasn't. There never was. The missing time wasn't me going somewhere else. It was everything else disappearing. Everything except that place. Except the field. Except where I actually was. I looked down at my hands. Still dirty. Still raw. Like I had been working. Like I had never stopped. Because maybe I hadn't. And for the first time, I had a thought I couldn't ignore. Not where the time was going. Not what was happening during it. But what place was actually real when everything else was gone?